Now, this list is according to me, and I do things a little different. I don't give a shit about statistics and what they've accomplished. What I'll be looking at is the actual skill of a fighter, not taking into account when they've had lapses in discipline or anything like that. Prime for prime, pound for pound, skill for skill, who are the greatest boxers of all time, according to me. Starting from the top, number 5 on my list is Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray has only really lost once in his prime, and that was to a prime Roberto Duran, who was an animal. Not to mention, that fight was competitive. It wasn't a one-sided ass beating. It had its moments, and it was back and forth. He later then went to avenge that loss. The reason I have Sugar Ray Leonard so high on this list is because there's not really any welterweights in any era that can mess with him. All but maybe one, but more on that later. I think he destroys the welterweight division today. I think he would easily beat Floyd Mayweather Jr. He just has the style to beat him, and he's a real welterweight. Unlike Floyd, he's a real full-size welterweight, so I think Floyd would have some problems. Think about when Sugar Ray went up to middleweight and fought Marvin Hagler and beat him, right? That was a hell of an accomplishment, and that's not something Floyd could really ever do. He can't go up to middleweight. He's just too small. Even pound for pound, I think Sugar Ray has the style to beat Floyd Mayweather. If you consider how Floyd struggled against Oscar De La Hoya, and then out of his prime Oscar De La Hoya, it was a split decision victory, actually very close fight. Then I say Sugar Ray Leonard mops the floor with him. And I love Floyd. This is coming from a huge Floyd Mayweather fan. So I think highly of Sugar Ray. He's going number 5 on this list. Next on the list is Mike Tyson. Now, a lot of people leave him out of the top 5 lists and top pound for pound lists, and I'll never understand why. Sure, he's lost a few when he started having lapses in discipline, but when you look at his prime, there's really not too many fighters that could beat a fighter like Mike. Mike was an unstoppable force, and pound for pound, I think he beats most fighters in history. Even if you look at just the heavyweights, even if you look at his Lennox Lewis fight where he got battered, if you look at that fight and you see how far Mike was from being himself to how Lennox actually struggled with that poor version of Mike, then you'll see that in his prime, Mike probably would have smoked him. Same thing with Holyfield. He probably would have smoked him. I think he would have smoked a lot of top heavyweights, if not all the heavyweights in any era. To me, Mike Tyson was one of the greatest fighters of all time. When he got into the ring, he didn't care about going to the decision. He wanted to take your head off. He wasn't counting points. He wasn't trying to get points deducted. He was trying to knock you out. He did so with incredible defense, incredible speed. If you were to shrink him down into other weight classes, he would only get faster and only be more devastating in terms of power in that weight class. So I think he is one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters of all time, hands down. Number 3 on this list is Muhammad Ali. I put Ali one notch above Tyson because I think he would win more fights if they were to fight. Say they fought 10 times, I think Ali would win 6, 7, or 8 of those fights. I think he had the style to beat Mike. He knew how to tie you up. He was just as fast. He had great reflexes, and he was a very cerebral fighter. He would think of a game plan to try to take Mike late into the rounds and then put the pressure on and get him tired, especially in the era of 15-round fights. I don't think Mike could really stand a chance against a guy like Ali, who has an incredible chin, an incredible mind, and incredible physical attributes. Between Ali and Mike, prime for prime, I think they beat any era heavyweight of any time. Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, the new guys that we have, Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, right? All these guys, I think, lose to a prime Ali or a prime Mike Tyson, and that's why they're number 3 and 4 on this list. Number 2 is Sugar Ray Robinson. To me, one of the greatest fighters to ever live, and he'll continue being one of the greatest fighters to ever live, and I think he's responsible for making boxing what it is today. He had a new style where he boxed, he slugged. He was one of the first fighters who had everything. He had a great chin, he had determination, he was rough, he was tough, he was strong, he was powerful, he was fast. He was a lot of things. He had great footwork. He was a killer in the ring. He knew how to destroy guys mentally. He knew how to destroy guys physically. And he was very hard to destroy himself. The things that he's accomplished in his prime were incredible. The things that he accomplished out of his prime were incredible. The amount of times that he fought. He was one of the toughest guys around. And I don't think any welterweight beats him in any division across any era, right? I think he really is one of the best fighters of all time. I think whether you bulk him up or shrink him down, whatever you want to do pound for pound, one of the best fighters of all time. And I think he'll always remain at least on the top 3 of every pound for pound list until the end of time. I think he smokes a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard. I think he smokes a guy like Floyd Mayweather. I think he smokes a guy like Tommy Hearns, right? Whatever great welterweights you want to put in front of him, I think he would smoke him. So to me, Sugar Ray Robinson, one of the greatest pound for pound fighters of all time. Now, can we get some drums, please? The big reveal, the one that might upset you guys the most. The number 1 pound for pound fighter of all time, in my opinion, is Roy Jones Jr. We have never seen anything like Jones Jr. before he came. We've never seen anything after, and I don't think we ever will. I don't think there will ever be a fighter like Roy Jones Jr. The kind of things that he did to fighters like James Toney, who was incredible, to Bernard Hopkins, who was incredible, right, to Virgil Hill, who was incredible. And the list goes on and on. He fought amazing fighters and made them look like not so amazing fighters. His speed, his reflexes, his fight IQ, his power, it was insane. He went from 154 all the way to heavyweight, right? That's an insane level of accomplishment. And he won titles in every weight class going up. When you look at that alone, it's insane, and it shows you the level of skill that he had to be able to go up and fight bigger fighters and still win. I actually always argue that if he never bulked up to heavyweight and actually just fought John Ruiz at 175, where he was 175 and John was allowed to be a heavyweight, I think he would destroy him. I actually think he would be able to stop him. I think the muscles actually slowed him down, and of course we know the impact they had on his career later. But if you look at history, if you look at boxing history, there's really no fighter 175 down that could beat Roy. Not even close. You could look at a guy like Marvin Hagler. He's not touching him, right? You could even look at a guy like Rocky Marciano. He's not touching him. Nobody 175 or even close to 175, nobody can touch Roy in his prime. Nobody. So if you were able to not just bulk him up and take him to heavyweight, but actually do it pound for pound way, he beats anybody. Roy beats anybody. There's no fighter that could deal with that kind of style. There's no blueprint on how to beat that kind of fighter. He's too fast, he's too strong, he's too quick in there, he's too smart in there. His defense is next level. He really was the Matrix. Really think about it. Who could beat Roy? As amazing as a fighter like Canelo is, he wouldn't be able to touch him, right? Any other light heavyweights today, they wouldn't be able to touch him. Any light heavyweights of any era, they wouldn't be able to touch him. He was just unstoppable. And to those that say he didn't have a chin, he had a great chin until he got older in age. In his prime, he got cracked often. He would just literally shake it off and come in and put your lights out. He was the kind of fighter that could decide when to take you out in the ring. To me, no fighter in history can match him, and that's why he's the #1 best pound-for-pound boxer of all time. Let me know in the comment section below who your top 5 pound-for-pound boxers of all time are, and let me know what you thought about this list. I'm Sean Brawl Brothers, and I'll brawl with you guys next time.